creation of I believe in last session we covered till Apex class creation, and we created the class through Salesforce also, as well as through VS Code also. So, I mean, did someone try with the VS Code? Or I mean, with someone, I mean, try to install the VS Code also. Okay. Okay, so today, I mean, in the last session, I mean, as I told you, we covered with Apex class. So we covered the SOQL queries. So we covered the way how to query the SOQL query. Also, we did collections also. So for today, I mean, first of all, we will start with the DML statements. So DML statement mainly your I mean these statement mean your insert, update, delete. All of this comes in your I mean DML statements in Salesforce. So now with DML statements also mean there are two approaches. Mean one of the approaches mean you can write like this. One is something which I have. And the second approach is you make use of database dot save results. So now what is the difference?
No, you're not sharing anything. You can.
Oh, sorry. Yeah, my mistake. Yeah. Yeah, is my screen now visible?
Yes, go ahead.
Yeah. So what I was saying, mainly there are, whenever you need to do DML statement, there are two ways you can do it out. First of the ways, you can use this approach. I have this list of accounts and I am inserting those records. And the second approach is you can make use of database dot save result and which operation you need to perform. So now what is the basic difference between both of them? Now, in case I go for this approach, assuming I am inserting, like in this example, I have taken two accounts. Mean the account 203 and 204 I have taken out. So in this case, what will happen? Assuming I am trying to insert these two records, and in case there is some any validation comes out, so all of the transaction will be rolled back. Assuming in 203 account, I am doing normal insertion, and in 204 there is some validation error. Maybe I forgot to add the name. So here what will happen? First account got inserted, but it has still not been committed. Second gets inserted, but since the error came, all of the transaction will be rolled back. Now with this approach, database.save result, what will now here happen out? Here what will happen out? I try to insert two records. For the first one, if you see here, I have taken the name. The second one, I have taken it as blank. I don't have name. So what will happen? First account will get inserted, but the second one will not get inserted. Because here I have used database.insert. And here also one more thing, that is the list of account that I am inserting and the type flag. Now in case I am using it as false, so what will happen? It will allow me to insert one record and one it won't allow me. Partial rollback, there is no such as concept. But had I been used this flag as true, so what will happen? Both of the account will not get inserted. And one more thing here. Okay, so let us first try with this transaction. And let me check whether already I have 203 or not. Okay, so we will start with the new series already. So now what I will do, I will go to my developer console. Okay, let us try to. So now here, if you see one more thing here to be, yeah. So one more thing here to, maybe I make it more. Yeah. So one more thing here to be noted is whenever I am writing in normal DM statement without using database of save result, it will always it will make use of try catch. So in case I am trying to use this, mean the other way around, database dot save result, there you don't need try catch because there you already have these methods. I mean you have this success and you have this error message you already have. So now let us try the first way and see whether the count. I will make it as 500. I just inserted two records because I don't want to mean inserted 200 or 300 like this. Okay, let us check mean whether the count has been inserted or not. Let me check. So there you see mean these two accounts has been inserted. And here one more thing to be noted is never write this insert inside this for loop. Because in case I write it inside this, so in case I have more than 150 accounts, it will give me mean DML statement error. Because in Salesforce, mean maximum DML statement that you can do in a transaction is 150. As I see. This mean governor limits mean I will try to cover with you in the later section mean what it's all about. So any questions on this part? Mean DL operation using try catch and normal DML statement. So shall we go further?
Yes.
Yeah. So now let us try the second way out. I mean here also I'm going to insert account records, but here I will make use of your this database.save result. So here what will happen? One account will get inserted. For the second one, I will get an error message. And in case my result is success, this will go into this debug log. In case it's a failure, then it will go into this part and it will show me the error message. I believe it's already copied here. Yeah, it's already here. So we will try to make it as 500. Above, I believe I read 5012. Okay. So let us try to do it 503 for our easy continuation. Yeah. Okay. So in case I see here debug, I will see two things. Now first one is my account which is being inserted here. Let us try to check when 503 has been inserted or not. Let me open this and just add it. So 503 has been inserted. So that's why I mean, in case I go into debug also, this one went into success. Now for the second account, as I told you, I did not enter the name. So it went into an error message. So it showed me this error. Required field and missing name is missing. And the account field that affected this error is here. So This is this part. So success, I got my ID. Failure, I got here. In case I had it here as true, it won't have allowed me to inside both of them. That's it. So is this part clear?
Hello.
Yeah.
So what are these database that save result? Are there methods?
Yeah, this one is a class. I mean, this one in Salesforce, you have this class, and this database dot insert, this one is your method.
Okay.
If you try to search this class also, you can see it. So you will have update also, and you will have delete also. Just search it on Google and more of it. You see, hello. That's it. That's the method which I was talking about. Okay, so now my one part basic is being covered out from the last session. So now we are clear with the collections, social queries, we are clear, Apex classes, we are clear. Now in last session someone asked me how will I get screen transaction? Because currently all of this that we have doing it out in the transactions that have been all been from the backend side. So now in Salesforce, we will go into the concepts of, I believe it's trigger next topic. Yeah, triggers. So triggers are nothing, just like whenever I'm doing some sort of a transaction, and I click on a save button. Assume I have an account object. So on account of object I have this field annual revenue, and I have this field I believe status is there, na hot, cold, believe all of them. Okay, assume there are two fields. One is annual revenue and the other one is status. So my status is a pick list field. It has three values: hot, warm, and cold. It has the value. So what I want is whenever my revenue is less than 100, it should send my status to 50. And in case my revenue is greater than, sorry, in case my revenue is less than 100, so it should send my status as cold. So in case my revenue is greater than 100, what it should do, it should send my status to hot. So now what I want is, this should happen before saving the record. So for this, what I can do, I can on the save button, whenever I click at this transaction should happen. So for this, Salesforce has introduced triggers. Now triggers, there are two types of triggers. The first one is your before trigger and the other one is your after trigger. Before trigger, it will happen on the same object, on the account object it will happen. On the account object, in case I need to do some validation, I want my annual revenue should not be entered as 0. So I need to create one validation. Now there are two ways I can create a validation. I could create it through validation rules also, as well as I could create it through triggers also. Mainly triggers is being used where there is some sort of complex validation I need to do it out. So your before trigger, it will always work on the same object. And apart from this, I also showed you one more example also, that annual revenue example and setting the status. Now in case I am inserting a record of an account object, so what I want, a contact record should be created out. So in case my transaction is happening on multiple objects, so in that case, what I will do, I will make use of your after trigger. So mainly there are two categories of trigger: before trigger on same object, after trigger on multiple objects. Is this example clear? We will go into the demo also. I will show you one example for after trigger also. Okay, I assume it's clear. And now comes the next part. How many type of trigger events are there in Salesforce? So mainly there are 7 types of trigger events. So these are your before insert, after insert, before update, after update, before delete, after delete, and after undelete. So these are basically your 7 types of trigger events. So on the whole, 2 things you need to remember. There are 2 types of trigger events, types of trigger, that is before, after, and 7 trigger events. So now I will show you this. If you see this one sample code I have. So how the trigger is being written. There are 2 ways you can write the triggers. Number of ways are there. So one of the ways is you just go to that object. So currently, if you see this trigger that I have, this is on account. So you can go to here account. Sorry, object manager. So here you go to triggers. So here what you can do, you can click on new and write your trigger. So currently, if you see, this is the trigger that we are going to discuss. So this is one way I can write the trigger. If you see, I click on it. So you just click on new, it will come like this. Here you need to specify the name of the trigger and trigger events. Which trigger event do I need to want to trigger it out? So these I told you, these are generally 7. So now if I see, this is how the example. Looks like. So this is one way you can create the trigger. This we will discuss later. First, let me show you the number of this. Other ways, in case you need to check it out. Okay. So from this view, you can only view the triggers. Apart from this, so if you see in 2 ways, I showed it out. First is you go to the object and then you can click the trigger or create new. In case you just need to view the triggers, you just search triggers here and you can get them. And other way is you go to your developer console. Here also, you can create a new trigger. And write the name of the trigger, you need to select the object. Third way is VS Code. So from VS Code also you can create the triggers. So this you can try it from your side also. Here you enter. From here you can do it. So is this clear? How many ways I can create a trigger? So one way is Salesforce UI, second way developer console, third one your VS Code.
Manu,
Okay.
so many here.
Yeah.
Yeah. The VS Code Studio, is that a free one?
Yeah, it's a free one. That's why I told you to install. It's a free one.
From Google, I can download.
Yeah, you can download and from the Google also. And last session I shared you the link also there, if you remember.
Okay.
So there also I can tell you all this what you need to do it out. First, you need to install the VS Code. That is one part. After that, you need to install the Salesforce CLI. That is 2. And then from the CMD in this terminal, you just need to check your CLI has the latest version. It's been installed. 2. 3 is you need to go into the VS Code and there you need to install the Salesforce extensions. That's it. That's it. Salesforce extension. That's it. So this is all the 3 steps you need to do. So once this is done, after that you need to authorize your org. So once your org is authorized, then you can connect it directly. So that is all been mentioned into that document. So just try it out. In case you fail some error, maybe in the next session we can discuss it. Okay. So let us go to the trigger and try to discuss. First, I will discuss with you in the notepad and then maybe I can. So now what this all trigger is about. So here what I have done is I have this account object. So what I want, whenever my account object is being, account record is being inserted on an account object, in case it doesn't have an opportunity, so it should allow me to create an opportunity. Apart from this, I have done one more thing here also. So this one I changed it out later on in the class. Other way is, in case my account record is updated, so there also I want the opportunity to be inserted. So as far as you see here, I have this after insert and after update, and this is what it has been done. I am on the account object. So I am checking, whether any account record is being inserted or not. And for that, I am using this trigger.new. Trigger.new is nothing but your trigger context variable. So there are different trigger context variable which are present in Salesforce. So these are trigger.new, trigger.old, trigger.new map, trigger.old map, trigger.isInsert, trigger.isUpdate, trigger.is after, trigger.is before. So these are all trigger context variables. So this you can check, I believe, from Trailhead also it's been mentioned there, as well as from Salesforce documentation also you can check. So if you see, this I covered it out. Trigger events I covered it out with you already. Types of trigger also I covered out. This one I'm talking, trigger context variables. And always remember one thing. So when my account record is inserted, only then I will have the ID. So IDs part, all of this come into your after triggers. So in case there has been before triggers, there you won't have the ID. So that record has not been committed to the database. But in case of after trigger, it's been committed to the database. That's why I get the ID, and I'm using that ID on account object. I am able to perform the operation on my opportunity. So if you see, this is what it has been done into this code. This example I have taken from your Trailhead also, because then it's easier for you people to correlate. So here, this is what has been done. So I am getting those account objects which have been newly inserted, and it does not have any opportunity. This is normal way. How we writed your Oracle queries, we write it out same as in Salesforce also the same thing is there. So in case such account record exists, what I want an opportunity to be created. Now this code, I did not do it in developer console. I commented out. Why? It was the reason, because whenever you are doing triggers, you should always do it through handler classes. This is the best approach. So this is good. In case you want to do testing on small projects, you want to do it. Whenever there is a huge project and client implementations are there, always do the trigger using your handler classes. Let me show you the example. So here, if you see one handler class I have created, OptiUtil, there I am creating the opportunity. And let us go one by one. So these trigger events, this is the trigger context variable which I have used here. So what I want is, whenever my operation is after, that is one part. Apart from that, what else I want is my operation insert or is it my operation update? So in case all of this, my condition is satisfied, this utility class is going to get called, and inside that I'm going to call this method create opti. So inside that I am passing two things. I am passing my new record also, and in case my old record also. New record is going as trigger.new map, and this one is going as trigger.old map. Now new map here will be the ID of the account, and as key value will be my account record. In old map, same thing, old values. That is my key as account ID and value as my account record. Let me open this utility class for you also. And one more thing I wanted to do before I move to the class. Trigger always runs in your system mode. So in case I wanted to run in user mode, I need to run it out. I need to make use of with sharing class. So currently this one is working in my system mode. So that is the biggest advantage you have with handler class. So in case you are not using handler classes, this trigger always will run in system. So you cannot then run it in user mode. So in case you need to run the code in either, you need to have that flexibility. Either I can run my code into system or my user mode, always user handler classes. And plus managing code is also very much easier also. So let me open this util class for you. So this is my Opti util class. Same thing I have done. So now you see how I have written this class. As I told you, this is my trigger.new map, account ID, and this one. Now, in case of insert, my old map will be null. I will show you both the example for insert as well as for update. So for the timing, just focus on the insert example. So here, if you see, that same thing has been done. So I'm getting those accounts who does not have an opportunity. Now, how I have differentiated them. So in case my operation is insert. So what I want is, I just want to update the opti. Now for update, what I have done it out is, generally whenever we write it an update, it's not like this you don't have an account and you insert the opportunity. Update it you always have certain fields to compare it out. That's why your old map comes into picture. So here if you see, what I have done is, this is my trigger.context variable is update. After that, what I'm checking, whether I have this one custom field active. So whether my field active, it has two values, yes or no. So in case previously it was yes, now I change it to no. So in case my here yes is not equal to no, so this condition is better satisfied, then only my opti will get inserted. So first let us see insert example. And before that, I need to activate the trigger also. Okay, so my trigger is active if you see. By default, whenever you are creating a new trigger, it's been active. Okay, so now let us try to create one new account. Let me save it. So now you see here, this one opportunity dot created, and this one has been created with close date more than 1 month. So now if you look into my code, this thing what I have done here. So is this insert part clear? Then I can move to go to the update part. Anyone having any questions on this?
Anything with that version settings?
Version settings. Yeah, this one is from your Salesforce side. So sometimes what it happen means Salesforce gives some release features, gives it out. So sometimes it happen mean that new version is not compatible with the old version because you have the Salesforce 3 times releases you have. So mainly for that purpose you have the version. And currently I believe it should be 52 or 53. Yeah, it's 52. So in case you need to change the version, that you can also change.
So
Hello,
before
Manu.
starting writing any code, I need to check the version with prod.
Generally, it's always been the latest one we follow. For example, when I give you one example, this is from an Apex class. Mean in chatter, mean sometimes you need to insert the record. Mean I believe the version 2 or 3 years ago, it used to be mean 37 or 38 something like they used to work, and they used to have this version 44. So in that case, I needed to downgrade to the version. So in case you needed to do it out, mean you always check the latest. In case it's not been working, then you can check the Salesforce documentation or what is the reason. In that cases, mean generally you need to figure it out. Okay.
Yep.
Hello, Manu.
Yeah.
Go to class body. No?
Class you want.
Class body.
Yeah.
Could you please explain that a trigger is update and account?
That's what I'm going to do next. That's what I'm going to do. First, let me do the transaction and then I will explain. Okay. Yeah. So now we are going to discuss the update part. So in the update part, what will happen in case my account value is being changed out? So in that case, what will happen? An opportunity with 2 months will get inserted. So for this, I will take this another opportunity that I have. For in this, there is already an opportunity, so it won't allow you to insert. So let me take 503. 503, I think we don't have any opportunity. Let us first check it out. Yeah, good. So here I have this field active, custom field active. So currently it doesn't have any value. Okay. So now if you see my code also here. So here I have this condition. If you see me, this is in case in insert, I am updating an opportunity with 1 month. So in case my operation is update and my this active new field is not equal to old value, then it should insert an opportunity with 2 months. So apart from an field active, in case I'm changing any field, I'm updating any fields on account, it won't then create the opportunity. So first let us try to change the active field and then try to change some other field and see the difference. So here if you see, I will change it to yes. I believe you did the process builder and workflow also. There you had that signal, subsequently meet the criteria. So that is the same thing that is in this. Sorry. Let me just try to check here. You see the opportunity got inserted. Now, this got inserted because of this code. Now, my operation is update. My new value is yes. Previous was null. And my opportunity with 2 months got inserted. It closed it as 2 months. Now, let me try to take on one account object. This one we can take. Here I will change any other field. Let us change type. Now the opportunity should not get inserted because I do not have any check. You see, no opportunity got inserted because my check is only on this field. Now, why I suggest in updates to have check is because in updates you are not having a check. You will get this error of circle queries because generally when you have big projects and you are not making any check for updates, so there you will have this 101 error of circle queries. So that's why whenever you are doing an update, you should always have some sort of check. Is this clear now?
Yes.
Yeah. Trigger part, is it clear? So now what I want to you people is, now you can go to Trailhead and just try to check all of this content. And always remember, triggers you need to write it in bulkification. What I mean by bulkification is you always need to do the operation sort of a collection. And 2 or 3 most important things to be checked while writing a trigger is, for now if you see I have written this select query like this. So your select query should not be written inside the for loop. So that one practice we should always remember. And a lot of people tend to make this mistake. That is one. 2, never write your DML operation, I mean in this insert operation inside your for loop. Because then also the same problem of DML. Because for SOQL queries you have 100 limit. And for DML operations you have 150. So in case I'm inserting more than 150 records, then it will create a problem. Now here in this code, since it's outside loop, it's only using one DML statement. So that is 2. And apart from this, whenever we write this query like this, the default size, which means batch size that trigger is taking out, that is 200. So it is processing the records at a 200 at a time in a trigger. So this mean writing a SOQL query inside for loop, it's a very common mistake when people do. That is one. And DML statement. And inside one for loop, I should not write another for loop unless I am writing as a relationship query. What I mean by relationship query is, I have some query which we discussed in last session also. Where I have the account object and I'm there querying the contact record. So that way I can have one for loop inside another for loop because it's a relationship query. Apart from that, no other. What I mean by collections is, I believe I should be having the last loop query. Yeah, so this is what I was saying. So this one I can have one for loop or other. So this you should try it out also. And one more thing, in the last session I forgot to tell you when it went from, I didn't tell you, is whenever you have this query, parent and child query, child, it's always relationship. It always has the plural label. So in case I need, if you see, we have this query. Na? So this one, if you see, I'm querying on the count, I'm querying on this child opportunities. In case I needed to use the opportunity directly, I will not write the plural name. This thing you can check it out from your relationship fields also. Account on opportunities, those have that field. So there, this relationship part plural is also being mentioned. So this you check it from your side. In case you're not able to find it out, let me know. And this is what I do. And this is just apart from this concept. So this I'm telling you. So here you go, they should be having the figure account. Yeah. So you see relationship here is plural. Any questions until this point? This I forgot in the last session to tell it out. So just during trigger it came out, then I thought of it. Is it clear? Hello?
Yes, no.
Yeah. Okay. So now this all is covered out. Okay. Triggers now you can go into the Trailhead and you can try it out these things. The second one I already discussed you the bulkification of triggers. This all has been mentioned here. So now I believe it should be all clear to you. Now in case you go all this concept, this should be related to you. Okay, now let us go to the next part. So next part here, I'm going to discuss the future methods. I mean, assume I have an example. What I want is this. I will show you the live demo also. I inserted an account object in my Salesforce system. Now assume those account I want also to be inserted into my SAP system. How can I do it out? So in this case, what I need to do it out, first of all, I need to insert an account record into my Salesforce. After that, I want my account record to be inserted in SAP system. So there, what I will do, whenever my transaction is completed, I need to make a call out to another system. So whenever you are making a call out in Salesforce, you always do it using future method. So what is the syntax? You write it at the rate future call out equal to true. So since here I could not have another SAP SAP system. So what I have done here is I have two Salesforce org I have connected out. So I will be inserting the account record using trigger in one Salesforce system. So using sales triggers, future call out, those account details I will be sending to another system. And there I will another Salesforce system. There I will be sending the account name. I will be sending phone number. The third one will be website. See, these three details I will be sending to other system, and there that account will get inserted. So let us try to explore. And after this, I will tell you the other utilities of future also. So now what I will do, I will comment that opportunity code just for reference here. Yeah. Now here I will, for timing, I will comment this code. So now if you see, this is my future example. And this future example, I generally wanted to do it on insert. If you want, I can remove the update part here also. But for the timing, just let us ignore this thing. So now here, this is another class call out example dot create account. So now in case I try to search, this is my class call out example. So inside that, first of all, I am calling this class create integration account. So herein I have just passed trigger.new. So what I mean by trigger.new here is trigger context variable where I'm passing the list of account records. So once it's being done here, so what I'm doing, I'm passing three things: the name of the account, the name of the phone number, and the name of the website. So these three details, this is how I'm passing out in the future class. After that, this is integration. So this is little bit advanced for the timing. You can just ignore it out. So I have just connected the other Salesforce system where I'm getting the token or all of this thing. After that, I am hitting this web service of the other system. Integration it's a separate topic. So this generally comes into advanced coding. So this we can check with animation whether we want to cover this session or not later. So my here just focus is just to show you how the call out to other system is going. So after that, I'm passing those details to the other system. That's it. This is what has been done. So we will try this transaction. Just 1 minute. Let me show you the class. I didn't save it. So now this class is saved. So this is what I was talking. Trigger.new here. If you see, this is list of accounts. Now one thing here to be noted is you could say Manu, you could have passed account list here also in future. So future means certain has limitation. In future method, it's always an async process. Now what it's like, this operation I didn't need it to be done on the trot immediately. So what I want is whenever my resources are available, then only this integration call out happens. So it's a async process. First of all, that thing, future method. And apart from that, it doesn't allow, it always will have no, it will won't have any return type also. And it doesn't allow you to pass S objects. Because there could be a situation, mean I pass the context of account, assume mean I pass the name, phone number. And since it's an async process, mean it will happen after some time. So what could happen, mean assume my phone number got changed. So in that case, mean then it won't be able to pick it out. So that's why mean Salesforce always says, mean whenever you are using a future method or async method, you always parse the primitive data types also. Always. In integer string, all of these data types you pass it. So I cannot pass mean here account list. That's it. And just for your example, mean here I did the call out directly. So generally it's also mean bulkified also, because for call outs also in future, I believe you have 50 or 100 DML limits you have. So call out limits you have. So you need to figure out that. So just let us just try to do this example. Now I will go into my account. I will create one new account. And after that, let me open the other org also, where it should get inserted. Okay. Yeah. So this is my other org. There should be an account object. So we just want to check the example. If you see, mean certain accounts I inserted mean yesterday also for testing purpose. So now we will create new account, maybe account demo testing we will name it. Let me try to call this one. Okay. So now what here I'm going to do, this is my first system, and once I insert an account, it should be inserted into the system. So here I will enter the phone number also. Website I can enter Google. So these three things I am inserting. And now if you see my trigger class also, so your name, phone number, website, three things are coming. So name, phone number, website. These three things are coming. After that, it is going into my web service class, which is in future @callout equal to. There, I'm passing .detail, I'm serializing it. And after that, I'm calling the other system. Just one. So now let me save it. So now let me try to check the first system whether this account is inserted or not. Just Just need to check whether I missed something. Let me check that. Okay, this we can check it out later. So I can show you. I mean, this one example I did yesterday. This was integration testing. If you see, just one minute, let me show you yesterday's example. Maybe I can choose. Oh, sorry, my mistake, I connected wrong Salesforce. Sorry, guys. I needed to connect the other one. That was what I was wondering. Actually, I connected the other one. Sorry. So sometimes this is a disadvantage. You have so many Salesforce, you tend to forget. Okay. You see, this is being inserted. Sorry, guys. So now, here I integration demo testing. So this is my website. This is my phone number. So this is my org number 2. And this is my org number 1. So is this example clear, or you want me to do one more transaction?
So basically using that call out method, we can push any number of resources to another Salesforce system or non-Salesforce system, right?
Yeah, non-Salesforce system.
Okay.
So this all I'd have done it through REST integration. But now in case I start explaining REST integration, then we need 2 separate sessions first. Integration is quite vast in Salesforce. So this is how I inserted an account using future. Now future, as I told you, async method. So what are other places where this future method can be used out? So as I told you, there are certain transactions, since this was running your asynchronous mode and you want to separate the thread out. So generally where it's being used. One of the common example is in Salesforce, when you get this very common error, mixed DML operations error, you get it out. So this you also check it on the internet. What does it mean? I will try to explain it this to you in as small as possible. So generally what happens, assume I am updating a contact report. So contact is my Salesforce object, standard object. So with my contact, assume I have some field in user object that I am updating out. So what I'm trying to do, I'm updating a contact, and with that I'm trying to update the user record also. So there what will happen, this will give you mixed YAML operation error. The reason for that is your contact is your standard object, and this user is your setup or entity setup object. So in Salesforce, you cannot do the transaction together. You cannot do the transaction with the object and your setup objects together. So in that case, what you need to do, you need to split the transaction. So in that case also you need to make use of future. So there what will happen, your context will get updated in one transaction. So based upon that, in case you need to update some field in user object, so that will happen in a separate transaction. So this you can check on internet also. In any link you can check mixed DML operations. This is what I was talking to you. So here you see, it has tried to do two things. It has tried to insert the account. It has tried to insert the user and the account also. So here the customer will get the user will get this error mixed YAML. So in order to avoid it, this is how it has been done. This one you can check it from your side also on it. So this was future. Let me check if I miss anything in future or not. Yeah. So mixed DML callouts, this I covered it out. So apart from this, when in the future also, in case you need to pass S objects, we have something now, the latest feature from Salesforce Viewable. This we will discuss in the later session. But before also, there was one main case I needed to pass objects. There you can use JSON serialization and deserialization. You can also use. But now that concept is no longer needed because we have this concept queuable. So that we will cover later on. So now from the morning, I covered three concepts I covered out. So first one, we understood how this DML happens in using your normal DML statement insert and all of those. So after that, we went into database.save result. That is one. So one thing we covered out. Second part, triggers, I covered it out. In triggers we covered out types of trigger, we covered trigger events, we covered trigger context variables, we covered. Apart from that, handler classes we covered, the types of mode, how we can have in trigger we covered. So that we covered out. After that, we went in all of this transaction previously till that point was all was sync. Now in case of asynchronous transaction, we covered out this. Future we covered out. In future we covered out the call out part we covered out. And apart from that, we covered out mixed DML also part also we covered out. In case you want to check what is the properties of future, this you can check it out. Yeah, and one more thing to be noted here, from one future I cannot call another future. From one async I cannot call another async. But in case these things I need to do it out, from one async to another, we can make use of queuable method. That is, there we change the jobs. That we will cover later. So, these are the properties, this you can check it out. This is what. Yeah, so this can you check it out. And on Trailhead also, this is being here. So this is the full module on async, if I see. So now if you see here, this full module, first part you will have future. This is this one and your batch apex, then queuable, then scheduler, and this one. So now shall we go to the batch for future? Now, sorry, after future.
Yeah, sure.
Okay. So now in the batch, now what is it? Now batch is basically used in case I need to perform some bulk operations. So what I mean by bulk operation mean like in a normal Salesforce you need to update maximum you can update 150,000 records. So assume mean I need to update more than 150,000 records. So there I can use make of batch. So batch I believe maximum you can update I believe 50 million records I believe you can update maximum this limit you can check it out from governor limits. So in case I need to update more than 50,000 record, what I will do? I will go for this batch Apex. So mainly a batch Apex, it makes use of 3 parts. The first one is your start method. The second one is your execute method, and the third one is finish. In start, what we generally do, I will write the query part. Assume I need to update more than 50,000 account record. So for that, what I will do, I will query those account records in a start method. After that, what operation do I need to perform? Assume I need to update the field, maybe status I need to update out. So in case I need to update out status, that part I will do the logic part, business logic part, which I need to implement it out. That I will do it out in my execute method. And once it's being done, some sort of notification I need to send to the user, that I will do it on the finish method. So start will query my records, hold it. Execute, I will perform my logic. And in the finish, I will just send a notification email in case I need to send it. So let me try to show one example. So this I have taken for your reference from Trailhead also only, then it's easier for you to understand. So here what is happening is, on account I have this, my address I have in billing state, billing address that I have. So that account address I need to update to my contact. So how I will do it out. So let us take this example. Assume this integration demo testing account we have. I will create here one contact. I will save it. So now what I will do on the account, I will update these details. Before that, I will just inactive the trigger so that it doesn't impact us. So here I will go into my billing address. I will enter my address. So I will save this. So now in order to execute it, I need to execute it through my batch. So I will show you my batch class. Update. Yeah, so this is my batch. So here if you see, yeah, so here if you see, this is what it has been done. So this is my name of my batch class. And since I need to make use of batch, I need to make use of implement database.batchable. This I will explain you later, the statement. So here I have implemented my batch interface. So inside that I have, as I told you, this is my first part, that is my start method. So here what I have done is, yeah. So here what I have done is I'm fetching those batch records where this billing country is equal to USA. So once my billing country is equal to USA, what I am doing is I am updating my contact records here. So in this part, I am fetching my account records. So this is how I'm fetching out the scope part, which I'm how it's fetching out. So once this is being done, what I need to do, I need to loop on my account records. So inside that account, I have my contact child records. And this is what I was saying, how you can make use of your related child records also. This for loop I can only write in case I have relationship query I already have. So those accounts whose billing country is equal to USA, what I am doing, I am updating account address with the I'm updating contact address with the account address. This is what I'm doing here. So here if you see, account billing state will go into contact mail state. All of these details are going to get out. And this is how I am updating out. That's it. So once this is done, in case this is async job that is just used to track, whether how many number of my records are being processed into the batch, all those things. Sorry, this is being done out here. So apart from that, in case I need you to send some sort of email notification, I can have that also here. Currently, I don't have. So 3 parts: account record queried. Based upon the account record queries, account address I am updating with the contact address, and then in case I need to check how many jobs I process, all of those things I can do it for debugging purpose. And other than that, in case I need to set some email notification, that also I can do it out. So I believe there the billing country is US. This one might need to change into my record, otherwise it won't get any record. Okay, so let us try to execute this batch. So whenever you want to execute this batch, there are certain things you need to take into consideration. Yeah. So this is if you see how my batch looks like. So first of all, you always need to instantiate the batch class. So that is one part. And apart from that, this is the most important thing. Database.execute batch and this one address. Now, what does it mean? So here I'm passing the instance of the batch class, and this one is my batch size. So what do I need my batch size? Assuming I had 60,000 records. So by default the batch size is 200. In case I have not specified anything, yeah. So in case I have not specified anything, I have written like this only. So it by default it would have taken 200 records in a batch. So what a batch job does, it breaks your jobs into chunks. So here what will happen? This full batch job, which has 60,000 record, it will be batch job. It will be broken down into your 30 batches. It will be broken down. Now, in case I have specified it as 10, so 60,000 divided by 10, there I will have 6,000 batches I will have. And this maximum batch size you can have, that is 2000, and by default it's 200. So I will give it as 10. I mean, you can keep it anything. And generally, mean sometime what will happen, you will get the CPU timeout errors, you get it out. So this is generally why it comes. I mean, you have so many batches running and this process builder, all of these things running. So in that case, what is recommended is when you reduce the batch size. But if you are reducing the batch size, there is one issue. I mean, it will increase your performance time also. In the things which could be done in 300, I mean, 2 hours, it could take about 3.5 hours. So I mean, there are then a lot of Salesforce practices when you need to take into considerations. I mean, you have separate batch profile, integration profile, process builders, migration, you have separate profile. So there are a lot of things when you need to take into consideration. So let us try to execute. Hopefully that get executed. Let us see. Seeing a lot of records are updated. Yeah. This one we can also check. Our one also we can check. First, let us check this. So here on my contact, those details should be updated. So here, there you see the address got updated. Sorry. So this was done using this batch job. Apart from this ID is also, you can check it out. Which one? This one. There you see this one also got updated. So is this clear? The batch part? Any questions? And one more thing here. Here I only even can't do update operation only. That is not always. You can also do the insert operations. In case you need to do an insert operation, there you need to write one iterator class. So that way, I mean, apart from not only update, insert also I can do it. And in case I need to make callouts, I mean from batch, I mean assume my batches are getting updated and I need to send those details to maybe some SAP system or some other system. So there, like we have this one. Database dot batchable you have, there you need to make use of database dot allow callouts. That is one thing. And now you will ask me in one question, I think you should have asked me, or could be, is it possible to call another batch from first batch? Yeah, it's possible. So in case assume this first batch executed, now I want to call, assume in this batch I updated contacts. So in another batch I want to update opportunities. So is it possible one contact get updated, then opportunities get updated? Yeah, it's possible. So in that case, I will have 2 batches. This is my first batch which run. Then in the finished batch, I can call the second batch. So it was introduced by this calling another batch in finished batch. It was introduced by Salesforce in 2016-17. So before that, you had to define a separate framework using custom setting. But now that is no longer needed. So you can directly call it. In the finish method, I can call the second batch. Yeah. So here one more thing was here. This stateful, what it does. So assume I was updating 60,000 records. I was updating now. So I kept the batch size as 200. So now in case I wanted to track how many number of my records are being processed, if you see this variable. So now in case I would not have used stateful, what will happen once my 200 record get executed, this again will set to 0. So in order to maintain the context, mean how many total records are processed, or mean how many, you need to maintain context in your batches, mean your variable value remains same. So in that case, I will make use of this stateful. Now with stateful, what will happen once 200 get executed, then 201 will come. So this is what it's. Yeah.
Manu, just one question regarding that. Like, we cannot call a asynchronous process from the asynchronous question. Asynchronous. So, like, there was an interview question like, how can we call a batch, a different batch from a batch method from the execute only? Like, how can that work? If that is the case, like, so there was.
First of all, the person who asked this question is a bit foolish. It should never happen in execute. It's already it's just like in one record I am inserting out in execute, you want to put it here after update.
Okay.
But that is never recommended. I don't know who such a big foolish was who asked this question. This should always be done in finish.
Okay, so like in the finish method, we can call a different batch, but like in the finish, if we talk about like it is also like complete asynchronous process. From the asynchronous, we cannot call asynchronous.
So that is only for future, brother. That is just 1 minute. That is only for future. From one future and another future. From one async, it's like in the finish, all my transaction has happened. This is Salesforce documentation. You can call another method.
Okay. So like, is there something like that? This finish method like works synchronously and like this execute and this.
No, this is a full async process. So it just like Salesforce get the resources, it will execute that job. And as far as I know, they had 24-hour SLA where they need to do it or all of these things. Who asked this question? I believe we are done for this session also today. So next part will be scheduler, and this other thing will be this one. Scheduler we will cover in next section, and queuable we will cover in next section, because this will also take little time. Maybe Animesh can stop the recording. Hello. 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 Can someone stop the recording? And then I can take the question. I want to stop this recording. Can someone? I believe we are done for the day today. Anyone having any questions?
Hello, Manu. So regarding that batch job dependency, so you mentioned if suppose in Salesforce one job is going to be finished and another job we need to schedule, that only we need to write code in the Apex, or there is no configuration?
Configuration, what do you mean? Assume I have one batch I have. Yeah, so this code I wrote in Apex. So what you mean? So can you repeat the question? I didn't get you.
I just want to say, suppose there is a parent batch job, and from that batch job, I need to schedule 3 more dependent batch jobs. So every point I need to write code. Is there any such, central configuration where I can all the dependency or dependent batch jobs through that parent?
Yeah, that you can do it out. That I will discuss in schedule. Cron jobs, that's why I will explain to you. How can I schedule those jobs also? You mean to say, you want one batch job to run at 8 a.m., the other one at 10 p.m. and the third one at 12. That is possible. That's what I had for the other topics also.
Okay.
This one I already have. Scheduler and cron. This one I have. So this I can start today, but just 7 minutes left. So this will become very heavy for you, because in case I go into scheduler and queuable. So in this part, scheduler, we will discuss how can I schedule the batch jobs or normal future method, how we can schedule it out. So that is one thing we will cover in the next section. And in the next session, we will cover this queuable part also, we will cover out. I mean, as I told you, in the future method, I could not pass S objects. So is there any other way around? So this is also we will cover out in the next session. Because I think when this all what I explained to you, triggers and this batches and future, it will require some times of your to also implement and check from Trailhead, because there are a lot of things there. And do one more thing, from the triggers, I explain you to the after. So just write one thing, just try to throw an error message on account of, try to make one simple validation. There is this, they have this in the trigger, they have this add error. So just try to implement it. Take one example, maybe my revenue is, in case it's equal to 0, then it should throw me an error message. So this error message, you don't try to make it through validation rule. This you try it through trigger. So there you need to make use of before insert. So that one thing you can try it out from your side. And apart from the Trailheads also you can try. And here I updated only account and contact I updated out. So maybe you can try on some other object. Maybe on opportunities, you can try to, based upon my maybe opportunity state, create some custom field and try to update using that. And in order to create, maybe what you can do, maybe you can try to create 4 to 500 opportunity records you can try to create before implementing the batch. So for that, what you can do, you can make use of this script. This one. So I have this one on account, this one you can have on your opportunity object. So here what you can do, maybe you can try to insert maybe 500 opportunity records you can try to insert. As I told you, with close date as today or some other field, try to insert them, and then through the batch try to update some field. So in this way, you will get to know how do you use this in DML operation. You will also get how to use, as well as batch update you will also get. You understood what the example I just said for the batch to implement. It's not clear, let me know, and I can explain you what I want you to implement.
Manu, one question.
Yeah.
Like if we want to update just the selected set of accounts, not all the 50,000 accounts, and we just have to update 30,000 accounts. So is it also possible in this case?
With, you're saying with batch?
Yes.
Yeah, it's possible. Just now, the example that I showed you, where account and contact address I updated out, I believe in my org there were only about 200 or 300 accounts that were there. Minimum, you don't have any limit. Okay.
Manu, can I ask something that is not related to this session?
Yeah, sure.
Actually, there was some interview question. That is what I want to ask. So
that's what I was saying. You can stop the recording, and then I can know who asked you interview questions.
So
I was saying.
So like there was I'm not clear with that concept. Suppose when we are moving data from the production to the full copy, does the record ID get changed or
No, the record ID. Yeah, full copy sandbox you're saying, na?
Yeah, from when we are copying records from the production to the full copy, are the record IDs get changed for those records that we
No, they are same. From production to full copy sandbox, they are same.
Or suppose we are moving from full copy to partial copy, because in that also we can have 10,000 records, I guess, in the partial copy.
Yeah, partial copy there you need to have sandbox template, but the IDs won't be same there.
So like if we move from the full copy, if we move the record from the, can we move records from the full copy to the partial copy? That is one question.
Sandboxes mean I think from production you can create this partial copy sandbox. I don't think when from full copy you can create, because
Okay.
this sandbox management this only will come into your production only this thing.
Okay, and suppose if we are moving the records like from this full copy to production, so like in that case, suppose we have created some new record in the full copy, and like we are moving that record into the production now. So like will it contain the same record ID that the one that is having on the full copy, or it will create some new record ID like in the production?
It should mean have the same, according to me, it should have same ID in production. Yeah. Because there needs to be some sort of an identifier you need to have. And generally this identifier, I think it should be an external ID or something like this.
Okay. Okay, so we have to mark a one field as an external ID, and like on the basis of that, like, but that record is already not there in the production. We are creating the record in the full copy.
That's what I'm saying now. In case the ID needs to be same out, then it's a sort of a sync. It should happen any other way around.
Okay. Okay.
But generally, no one does this. I mean, someone creates the recording sandbox and then you move it out to production.